Hey, this is Mitch from Pencil Kings, and I help artists create income streams. In today's video, we're going to be covering art communities and why you need to find one. This is one of the main things that I used when I was on my path going from high school and then eventually breaking into video games. And it's something that you can use today to open big doors for yourself as well. So let's dive into it. All right, the first question you might be asking is, do you even need a community? I hear people talking about the art community all the time, and they mean this giant community, but that's not what I'm talking about here, because millions of different artists aren't exactly who are going to help you take that next step and take your creative passion and turn it into some kind of an income stream. And that's what I'm all about, and that's what I want for you. So the type of community that I'm talking about are a few key people that are going to make all the difference in your journey. They're going to help you learn faster. They're going to help you critique. They're going to help you grow your own abilities and your own knowledge base much faster than you can on your own. If you're anything like I was when I was growing up, there might be people around you that are interested in art, but they might not have the same style that you're interested in, or they might not have the same level of dedication that you have. And this is where finding people online is where it's at. Okay, so let me give you an example of what this looked like when I was first breaking in. I would hang out online in various chat rooms where there was artists hanging out basically all day talking about different techniques, 2D, 3D, you name it, they were doing it. And it was amazing because there was artists from all over the world doing all kinds of different art, especially the kind of art that I was interested in, which was doing art for television commercials, video games, and movies. Entertainment art was where I thought the coolest stuff was happening, and that's what I wanted to learn. And when I looked around, the little village that I grew up in, there were no animation companies. There was literally nothing. And so this was my outlet, my way to connect with other artists and learn from them to see what they were doing so that I could start to model those same behaviors for myself, even though I had no one around me, like no one in my physical space who could show me that stuff. And what else is really cool is that as I started to establish myself and get my first jobs and started working in visual effects, I was still participating and hanging out in those chat rooms where then I could find people who are local to me. It's crazy. I remember looking up the IP addresses of different people in the chat rooms and finding people in my same city and then reaching out to them so they could apply where I was working, and eventually they got jobs and they got their career started. And it's just a really cool way that you can get into the thing that you want to get into, but also open a door for somebody else and be that person who's the conduit, because it's just so rewarding when you've already made your way in and then you can open that door for somebody else. It might seem like if you've never had a job before, working using your creative abilities to earn your income, it might seem like it's this tough thing to get in and that the world might be against you or people might be against you, but I can assure you it's the exact opposite. People want to let you in. They want to open the door for you, and they want to share this amazing life and this amazing journey of being an artist that they're having with other people, and just be that one to basically allow for you to have that same opportunity that they had to go in and break into the industry, because it only happens once, and it's a really special feeling when you can open that door for another artist. So here's the challenge. When you're working alone, there's so much information out there right now that it seems like it's no sweat. You got it. You can just find anything you want. Everything is Googleable. And to a degree, that's true. But you have to remember that all the time, it's going to be another human being who opens the door for you, who is willing to take your resume or to look at your portfolio and hire you for a job. And so when you're starting to participate in communities, you're starting to practice these human skills, which today more than ever, I think are very valuable, because as you get bigger and work on bigger projects, you're always going to be working with more artists. And so it's a great chance to develop those skills and start to function and work with other people. It doesn't have to be all just like a solo journey. You can work with other artists, you can collaborate, you can do projects together, and all this happens in community. And so it's a problem if you think that you can do this all on your own. And I often get into that feeling where it's just me against the world, and I totally get it. Almost every problem is solvable with Google. But it's just so much easier when you use the help of someone else and when you use the help and the leverage of your community. The next problem with not having a community is that it can be really tough to stay motivated. When somebody's paying you to show up at work, all right, you don't show up, you don't get paid. So there's that monetary pressure happening. But when it comes to your art, especially when you're not yet broken into somewhere, nobody's paying you, you really need that community to keep pushing, to keep moving forward every single day, to keep motivating each other and leaning on each other so that you can then get your skills to the point and be in the game long enough where you have that opportunity for somebody to reach out and say like, yeah, I really like what you're doing, and I want you to be on my team. There's a spot for you. I'm going to give you a chance. And so motivation is one of the biggest things. There's lots of challenges, but I think it's just the day-to-day and the friendships with other people who are on the same path as you that's so amazing. And again, if you're lone wolfing it, you're really shortcutting yourself of one of the greatest parts of being an artist, especially being an artist who hasn't made it yet, who hasn't broken in. It's a lot of fun because there's really no rules. You get to try things out, and you're doing it ideally with your friends who you meet through these communities. All right, now the last thing that can be a challenge with these communities and finding a community is that you might not know the right thing to say. You might be a little socially awkward, and that's okay. And I say that because I feel socially awkward. A lot of the times I'm definitely not an extrovert in a big group situation. I'm the one hanging back. But online, I find it's somewhat easier. And really, with this, I don't think you have to be too worried. Essentially, you want to come at things from a place of curiosity and a place of being passionate about whatever you're working on. And I think that's really the key, that your passion is always going to shine through and break down a lot of the barriers, a lot of the awkwardness that might be there, because ideally you're meeting people and your passion is sort of matching with the same kind of passion that they have. So if you're really serious and you're the sort of like 10 hours a day, you're going to make something amazing happen, and you're working as hard as you can, and you meet some other people who are at that same passion level, it's actually going to be quite rare that they find other people who are at the same level. And so ideally, it's fairly easy to make friends and start to have conversations based on that. So the awkwardness and the worry that you may feel, I believe, is just largely in your head. And because the cool thing with online is that there's not really age barriers or geographic barriers. It's more so like if you're both interested in the same kind of subject matter or the same medium or the same kind of techniques, there's going to be an instant camaraderie there, and it just becomes a lot easier to spark up a friendship and to spark up a conversation. And then when you start matching on many different levels, well, that's the beginnings of a friendship, and you don't really have to force this stuff. It really just happens organically through your passion. The sort of caveat there is that if you have no passion about things, then it's going to be tough. So ideally, you know what you want to do, and you're willing to work at it and work for it, and therefore the conversations are going to happen very organically and easily for you. Okay, so how do you find the right community? I hope this is extremely obvious, but I think there's so many different communities online that it's easy to be in the wrong community. We have our own community inside Pencil Kings, and really it's geared for people who are looking to take their first steps as an artist and develop their skills in a safe place where there's mentorship and there's people who are ready to look at their work and they can work on challenges together. That's our community. That may or may not be the right community for you, but it's your job. Like, nobody is just going to come and, as far as I know, there's no art community finder, but it's up to you to find that right community that's working at the skill level that you want and has the right type of people. There are paid communities and there are free communities out there. And you can also start your own community. But mainly, I think it's important just to realize that the more that you know what you want to do, the easier it's going to be to find that right community. That if you just say, well, I don't really know what I want to do, I just like something cool with superheroes, that's so vague that it's going to be almost impossible. Whereas if you know that, like, what software you like to use, or what, it could be drawing, or it could be animation. There's like so many different avenues that you can go into for art, but the more specific that you can get, the easier it's going to be to have those connections and meet the right kind of people that are going to go with you along on your journey, so that ideally what happens is that one of you has your big break, and then they can ideally open the door for you, or you can open the door for them or other people in the community. And that's kind of how it goes. I know a lot of times we like to think that in art, it's your merit is only based on your ability, but the reality is that once you're on the inside, it's a lot of it is about friendship. Because if I had to hire, or if I had to choose between two people who I was looking at their portfolios, and one was maybe like 5% better skill, and one was my friend who I know works really hard and has a great attitude and is going to be a great team player, but this person is an unknown, I'm going to choose my friend every single time, even though this person's art might be a little bit better, which I hope it's not a shock to you, but I think it was actually a shock to me of how things really happen, because I spent so much time working on my abilities. And then once I saw how things work on the inside, it's really about community. All right, let's big picture this just for a second. This concept of community, finding the right community, and why it's important, especially when you're trying to take what you're passionate about or what you like to create or make and tie that in with an income stream. No matter what, like I was saying before, it's going to be a human who signs your check, opens a door, hires you, introduces you to somebody else, or buys from you. You can't just do it all alone. So no matter what, it's going to be easier the more you participate in community. Now, it's not all roses, but I think it's mostly upside when you're working inside a community. You're just forming these different connections, and the more that people know you and know what you're all about, it just becomes easier. They start to see, oh, I know this, when they're out in the world, they know the type of work that you like to do and your personality. So let's just say, for example, that you really like drawing cute characters that are very expressive. And that's sort of like your thing that you focus on. So those people can, when the other people in your community are out in the world, or maybe they're working somewhere, or they have a job where, there's just too much work and we need somebody that specializes in these cute characters with big expressions. I know this is not the best example, but it's an example. Let's just roll with it. When they have that need, then they can think of you, and then you're the first person that they call, and as long as you have the availability, you get the job. You didn't even really have to apply for anything. That's just how it happens. That's how smooth it happens. And so while it's not the only piece of the puzzle that you need, but I think it's one of the core pieces, because what I see people doing is spending so much time focusing solely on their skills when there's many other skills that and when I say skills, I mean the technical skills of making their art. When the more that you can start to develop these soft skills, the easier your life as an artist is going to be. And when you can start to put all these soft skills together, your skills will be fine and they'll be wherever they're at. But what I see happening is that we start to feel bad about where our skills are, and we feel like, we should be better, we should be working harder, we should be at a higher level. But in reality, there's probably tons of work available for you wherever your skills are at right now, as long as you have a good attitude and you're working hard. And it's community along with the other things that are going to make that happen for you and going to make that happen for you much easier. All right. So if you're serious about making this happen and you feel inspired, what I would like you to do today to take action on this right now is just take, 10, 15 minutes, go online and see if you can find a community that's even better suited than the one that you take part in already. If you're not taking part in any communities right now, we'll just consider this a call to action to look for a community. Like I said before, we have one over at Pencil Kings, but be honest with yourself and what you want, and see if you can find that community. Even though it might look great and it might be like the perfect fit, once you go inside, you'll find that each community kind of has its own flavor, and just like different flavors of ice cream. You could have two exact same communities that focus on the same thing. Maybe it's like building science fiction models and kit bashing, and you go into both communities and they could have completely different feelings. So just keep that in mind as you go in and try to find one that's the right fit for you. This is going to be like your new home, your sort of like your hub, where ideally you're going to form, some of them might be lifelong friendships. In my experience, it's shorter than that. It's probably like the friends that I made online usually were about 5 years. I think that we were friends, and then things just kind of took their natural course as people started to get busy in their careers, started to have families and whatnot. But when you're trying to break in, this is absolutely one of the secrets. I met so many people inside the chat rooms that I still know today. We didn't know each other by our real names, but when we, over a couple beers or whatever, and you get to start to talk about the good old days, and you talk about, where you used to hang out and which nickname you used to use, then you start to see, oh, wow, okay, I knew these people. And it all started in these communities, and now you see these people who are well established in their careers, and they're essentially titans. And it's amazing because it all started in that sort of like nurturing ground of a community where nobody was really anything yet, and we were all just learning and starting out together. So that's your goal for today. Spend 15 minutes trying to find a community that's a great fit for you, and I'll be back tomorrow with another video. All right, see you soon.